So there's different forms of alarms. There's the alarms that with OCD looping thoughts, where you have a target, you have the content of the thought, and it's hell. It sucks. It's relentless. It doesn't stop. The what if thoughts are there, but you know what they are, right? And it's hell. It sucks. But then you get the different types of alarms. Well, there's lots of different alarms, but today we'll talk about the alarms that are just a feeling, the anxious feeling, where you can't really pinpoint. It doesn't really have a face. It doesn't really have a content or a what if. There's no real target. It's just kind of like fog, anxious fog going through your body. And sometimes that could be worse. Sometimes, I don't know. I think it's all shit. I hated all of it. Um, and, I ended up getting used to the OCD looping thoughts. It was, a nightmare every day, but it was a nightmare that I knew, right? So you kind of, you're like, yeah, the nightmare is today. The nightmare will be there tomorrow. The nightmare will be there in a month. The nightmare will be there in 3 months. So there's a path there, right? You're still walking. You're still moving. You're still alive, right? So, okay. But then there's the anxiousness that pops up out of nowhere, usually, which, it can hang out. Sometimes it's hard to decipher because it's like, well, you got the OCD looping thoughts, then you got the anxiety attack, you got the fear of the fear, you got the flash fears, then you got the intrusive thoughts, then you got the triggers, then you got the panic attacks, and then derealization, and then you add in all the symptoms that come along with it, and then you're freaking out on the symptoms. Here's a little. You're freaking out on the symptoms on top of that. So it's a big bucket of mixed nuts of craziness. And today I'll try to just talk about the anxiousness, because it's easy for me to go into, yeah, but what about the panic? What about the OCD? But it's not a competition. It's like, okay, we know those are horrible, but let's give some attention to the anxiousness. Let's put a little spotlight on it, because when it happens out of nowhere, it can be really, it can be something that's really scary, right? Because it just doesn't fuck off. It just doesn't, you don't have a face that you can go, okay, I get it. You're there, whatever. I'll just do this. It's a feeling that you feel in your chest. It's like this buzzing feeling, butterflies in your chest, uneasy. It's like something's about to happen, right? Or something's happening, or has just happened, or you're about to get a diagnosis of something that's, or your body's being invaded by something, and it's happening now, and you better figure this out because, maybe you can get on top of this. Anxiousness sucks. Especially when it's for no reason, right? It's nice to have a reason, but if you don't have a reason, or you can't see it, it makes it that much more difficult. So I had, for me, anxiousness was, well, in the beginning I had the constant panic attack. It was like a constant panic attack for, I think it was for a couple of weeks. It didn't go away. So it's like a panic attack. When you have them, you're like, oh my God, for like, it goes away usually after 20 minutes. Well, I had one of those that lasted for a couple of weeks, right? It just didn't stop. Well, it stopped near the evening slowly, but it just went down to anxiety. And then back to panic, where I literally was running down the hallways, freaking out. I was home alone at this time, freaking out and screaming, running down the hallways, holding my head, I was asking either my higher self, God, consciousness, anything, all of them, to help me. And, the more I was freaking out, it still wouldn't go away, right? Which was frustrating because you think, if you have a mental breakdown, you freak out, you scream, you cry, that you'll get some sort of relief. But after you're done crying and screaming and running down the hallway, you wait. It's still there, right? So I went through that whole phase. And then the anxious feeling, where everything else was quiet and just the anxious feeling would come in, was once in a while. I'd come in, right? Make an appearance. And it screws you up because you're like, I know I've dealt with this before. I know it passes. It always passes, right? It'll always pass. But when it just arrives, you're like, okay, today, all right, I'm feeling anxious. Like, you're supposed to do. You allow all the feelings, allow all the what if thoughts, OCD, looping thoughts, intrusive thoughts, triggers. You allow, it's across the board. We use the same methods across the board. That's why it's so lovely, because it's not complicated and it makes things so straightforward so that you can remember it. You don't have to go down these rabbit holes by, freaking out about how to handle this, which all it does is create resistance, which brings your baseline up, which sends more alarm, and then you go into the cycle. That's why I love these methods, because at the end of the day, we're taking away resistance, we're taking away the fight that you're doing with yourself, and we're making it simple, right? So that you also remember it when you're in the thick of it, because when you're in the thick of it, where's that from? The thick of it. I don't know. Somebody remind me where that's from. Is that Wonka? Anyway, when you're in the thick of it, your brain will forget everything you learn. So it's nice to have a method that works across the board with everything. Everything that, that's up here and here. Everything. So that's a relief. Because we know there's programs out there where it's like, well, if this happens, put that there. That can and then follow this checklist, and then make a list, and then start to, right? It gets ridiculous. So, and that's just more triggering, and you're lost at sea. Baseline goes up, alarms are multiplied times 1,000, and you just get stuck. You don't move forward. Right? So I like a simple approach that's across the board, and you allow it no matter what. But the anxiousness, right? It's just a feeling. You feel anxious, and you can't really pinpoint what it could be, because it could be anything, which makes it really scary, right? A what if thought, at least you have, somewhat of a content of, well, if my kidney explodes, there's the content. You will die at this hospital at certain time. Right now, we'll go there, and you're going to be on a stretcher. But if it's just anxiousness, it could be anything. And the thing is, you don't know. The unknown is very scary, right? So you're like, I'm feeling anxious. But why am I feeling anxious? Right? And then, you can go down rabbit holes. You can ruminate, try to figure out, right? And we're going to try not to do that. We're trying not to figure out, no opposites, no trying to fix anything, analyze, no, not being Einstein, or we're not being Sherlock Holmes. All you got to do is resort back to plan A, which is allow it to be there. Let it do its thing. And feel anxious. Enjoy the anxiousness. And I know it's very difficult to enjoy anxiousness because it puts you on edge, right? You're like, enjoy it. I'm just, okay, I'm, you know what? That's the prime time. That is prime time, like I've said before, where you go against the grain of what you usually do. You go against the grain of what the alarms are telling you. The alarms want you to freak out. The alarms want you to reaffirm that, yes, you're in danger. The alarms are going, danger, right? And it wants you to go, right. So it goes, okay, we're on the right track because we're keeping the alarms off. But when it goes, danger, right? This is where you go, and you start dancing, right? You start doing the fucking, what is that? What's that movie? It's a Bee Gees song. Staying Alive, right? So you're going to dance and you go against the grain of what the brain is expecting you to say because it thinks it knows that it's calling the shots right. Right? It thinks it's like, yeah, I know what this is. Alarm's on, right? Right? You're like, I'm not telling you, you know what? I'm going to do it with my attitude. Right? I'm going to show you that we're safe with how dangerous it feels right now. So the anxiousness feels dangerous. I mean, I'm going to sit there like overcooked noodles. Right? Like overcooked noodles. And just put your shoulders down. Right when you think your shoulders can go down all the way. Right when you think your shoulders are down all the way. They can go down a lot more. Watch. Yeah, you can't even see. But that's the time when you go against the grain and you lean into it, lean into the anxiousness. That's the time when you go against the grain and you go out for a walk and elevate. And you raise your vibration. You have some fun, playtime, fun time, elevate. Go put some music on, dance. While you're anxious, when the anxiousness is at its hardest, worst, lean into it. Go, all right, I like this. Right? Embrace it. Love it. Ask for more. Asking for more is a big, powerful buzzword that gets you into the zone, right? So you go against the grain. This is the prime time, right? Prime time where you pounce. So the brain's always trying to work with you. It's always trying to adjust. And it's running a program, a pattern. So then when it runs the wrong pattern, you got to let it do its thing, right? Because it takes a while for it to stop. And then while you're letting it do its thing, you're sending the new information, right? And it goes, oh, okay, and now we're running this new program. You're like, all right. But while it's running that old program that was there earlier, you're going to feel the anxiousness. You're going to feel that symptom, right? You're going to feel that the trigger symptom, what if thought, intrusive thought, the whatever it is that you're going through, you're going to feel that old program running. But eventually you're going to hit it with the new program while it's moving, and then it's going to have a transitional period. And then finally there is a new program. You go with the flow. You take away the resistance. You don't fight it. You don't go against it. You go with it. You go, hey, come, let's go. Right? And then eventually that's how you get what you want in there. You get what you want in there. Okay. Then it becomes what you want. And then it's the new program. So anxiousness, it's one of those things where you just got to use the same methods by allowing it to be there, allowing it to run wild, asking for more, lean into it, act like you're overcooked noodles, right? Love it, embrace it, and go put some music on and dance, right? That's prime time. Start dancing, right? Because you'll get into the music. When the music starts playing, you can't help yourself. And you start to enjoy it. Not because you're using music as a way to get rid of. You're using music for you to elevate, right? And that's great. And if you are a person that loves to be in nature and that's the way you elevate, do that. Go out in nature and really enjoy your environment while you're feeling anxious. Because we want to allow the limbic system to feel whatever it wants to feel. Even if it feels like shit, because you're going to feel like shit. You have to feel like shit. You need to feel like shit to change that program. People want to do these healing programs, but they don't want to feel uncomfortable. So it's never going to work. So what I'm teaching people is to learn how to feel uncomfortable, to learn how to feel like shit, and to be okay with that, right? To learn how to be scared, learn how to sit in the fear. Because if you can learn how to do that, that's the golden nugget, right? If you can learn how to sit in the fire and have a response that does not show like you're white knuckling or surviving, right? If you're able to go, I'm fine in the middle of the fire, right? Like that one meme, I'll try to find it. If you're able to do that, that's what we're trying to get to. You want to make anxiousness be your buddy. When it comes and goes and comes and goes, which it will, when it comes and goes back and forth 1,000 times, by the time it's at 300 I want you to be happy when it's coming. You see it coming, you're like, oh, here it comes. Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. See, if you have a response like, hey, buddy, I know you're coming, but I'm okay with it. Guess why? Guess why? Guess what? Guess what the reason is why I'm okay with you being there. Because I know you're going to go again. It's going to pass. You always pass. So it's like a form. You know what experience is? Experience and knowledge is a form of reassurance and trust and confidence that you're going to get through this, right? But we also don't want to get through anything because it just shows that you're surviving through what? Danger. So you're not going to care if you're getting through anything. You're going to be okay with it being there. You're actually going to feel comfortable with the discomfort. You're going to get discomfortable. And you're going to get used to it. And when you get used to a symptom or a feeling or fill in the blanks, that's when it lifts as a consequence. So I had it where my anxiousness would be there for 3 days and it would go. I'm like, all right. And then the next time it would be there for a week. And that pissed me off. Well, it didn't piss me off. It scared the shit out of me. The reason why it scared the shit out of me is because I was monitoring how long it was there. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Last time it was 3 days. Okay, I want you to stay for another 2 days. I did the whole, ask for more, 2 more days. Then it was like the 5th day. I was like, shit, maybe there's something really wrong. Maybe there's something really going this time. Maybe this time there's really, I was like, no. The limbic system will do this. It'll hang on just a little longer. It'll drag shit out longer because it knows you're waiting for it to lift. That's really important. Sometimes it gets stubborn and it hangs on. Sometimes you'll get the symptoms that'll hang out longer than you expected. And the contrast of them hanging longer than you expected is extremely long. In the big picture, it did what it did. But in the time that you're experiencing the symptom for this amount of time that was really long, it was a nightmare. Because you're really focused on the timing. And the brain sees this, so it stretches it out longer. So if you're still looking for something to go after 5 days, it's most likely going to stay. And you'll get these times that happen where something stays longer than you want and it drives you fucking nuts. So what's the best thing to do? The best thing to do is to know about this ahead of time. Be prepared for when it happens and learn about it and be okay with it. Right? Because that's what it is. It's all about wisdom, knowledge, experience. Sometimes it's just about going through it and experiencing it yourself over and over and over again until you have that, that knowledge of what you went through, so that when it happens again next time, you'll be okay. You'll have the confidence, right? You'll trust that it will go when it's ready, and you won't rush it out the door. And when you don't rush it out the door and you actually rush it to come back in, that's when it goes. So anxiousness, yes, it's one of those things that it's really uncomfortable, just like the other symptoms, but you kind of want it to, okay, your time's up. Can you fuck off? And it'll linger around. And it did with me. It was like, instead of 5 days, it'll stay for like a week and a bit. I'm like, oh no, oh well, I'm allowing it. So I had to allow it and fully accept it and be okay with it being there for another month. And then it fucked off. And then, a couple months later, it came back. And it almost feels like it's new again. Because you're like, I think it's like last time. It better be like last time. It better go like it did last time. So then you got to go through this 5 more times. Because when it comes back after the 6th time you go through this, then you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. That's probably... And don't try to figure out, that week what the reason was. Oh, I was in the bushes. Maybe I have a reaction to the bushes. Or I had some stress with Christmas or work stress. Maybe that's why. Who cares? Whatever it is, it's irrelevant. It is what it is. Allow it to be there. Feel it fully. Acknowledge it. And it'll go when it's ready. And it will go. It always passes.